Oh, hello. Fancy seeing you here on a Monday morning, but glad you could join us. Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Each week we will be interviewing local, regional, and national business leaders to give you an inside peek into how they lead their businesses to success in an ever-competitive business climate. So pour yourself a hot cup and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Today I have another very special guest. His name is Eric Gemelli. He is the author of 2 books about investing and a financial journalist with millions of readers. He learned to forecast markets by a multi-billionaire who traded on the S&P 500. He's spoken at FredomFest with Steve Forbes and is the former host of Investing in You, a radio show on KRCN. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Hey there. Thank you.
Well, I'm really glad to have you on. We're trying to do this episode where we have a diverse set of interesting people that we have on the show, and you're one of them because since the day I met you, you're a very assertive guy and you're a very successful guy, and I think people could learn a lot from you, and hopefully, they want to work with you in the future. So, but before we get into exactly what you do, tell me a little bit more about you as an entrepreneur. Why are you an entrepreneur? Is there something that, what kind of led you to be an entrepreneur and an investor and your own self-made man, even from childhood? Did you grow up in a certain way that kind of led you there?
Maybe the opposite. My parents were blue and gray collar. And maybe that's what fed me. I saw my dad work at jobs he didn't really care about. That really added to his stress, and they increased his anxiety and anger, and maybe there was an internal question, hey, if I could do something else. And of course, who doesn't love freedom? So having everybody talks about multiple streams of income. I went surfing in November for my birthday. I literally made more on the water. I set up a trade and the triggers got hit while I was out playing, and made more, probably what most people would make in 2 years. And that's the life that you can have when you understand markets, in a bigger way. What did you do before you got into investing, or were you always into finance and investing? No, it's funny. It's a little bit of I think, providential. So I've always been interested in business, but I hopped around schools a couple times, went to a couple private schools, money ran out, went back to the state school, and they said, well, if you want to go to business, that'll be 4 more years. I'm like, that's starting over. I've already put in 2.
Yeah,
so
no kidding.
I could get out of journalism school in a 5th year, so 3 years there. And so I've got this aptitude for taking the complex and breaking it down in understandable bites, but always had that interest in business. So it didn't take long where I was starting to work in the financial fields. And that led to raising venture capital. I had an office in a bank, and I met this multi-billionaire that you just referenced. He was a chain smoker. He'd go out on the back fire escape all the time, like a couple times an hour. and I didn't smoke, but I had, he had fascinating stories. The guy started a printing plant in Saudi Arabia. He revolutionized the stamp production there. I mean, the stuff he gets in the middle of. He owned an armament company in Switzerland. So fascinating world, right? When you've got those kind of contacts, and he's just top-notch guy. He's a good person. He's funded education of brilliant women all over the place. I don't want to say too much about him because he doesn't want to be known.
Oh, fair enough.
So loved hearing his stories. I had a lot of time on my hands at that point in my life, so I'd go out there and just listen to him. Mm-hmm. And we got to be friends. It was a little ironic. I mean, he was probably 30 years older than me. I think 32, 35 years older. He's still around.
Still chain smoking?
And he quit smoking.
Okay.
But he's on oxygen. So, hey, kids, don't smoke. But anyway, lifelong friend now, over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And he one day showed me this pattern that predicts what's coming. That's the wrong way to say it. It predicts something's coming. Mm-hmm. So it sounds impossible to predict the September 11th market crash, right? How do you predict terrorism? But the charts the chart said something is going to happen to make it turn. And thank God I did it in writing. I had a column at that time. So just one little tweak. I've had millions of readers. I don't at the moment.
Yeah.
I didn't want to exaggerate. But at that time, I had an active newspaper column, and I said, hey, I don't know what, the Dow's at 11.4. My guess is it's going to break 8,000, right? Predicting a 3,400 point drop.
That's incredible.
Which percentage-wise is enormous.
Yeah.
And I said the exact pattern it would take. So it's actually possible to know the pattern things will take. There's things you can know about how far it'll go. Anyway, and you don't know what's going to cause it. The Greek financial crisis, I picked two points in time on the chart, 7 months in advance again. Most of what I do is in writing. I've been writing some sort of column for 20 years, or a private newsletter. And so everything's documented in my life. And the Greek financial crisis, it happened 17 points of my target on the chart. So, and I traded it within an hour of the event without knowing the news, right? I know nothing about Greece. I eat flaming cheese. That's my extent of knowledge, and drink a little ouzo. So it's not that I have great insights. It's just the chart tells you something's coming.
Yeah. When did you exactly start? When did you start teaching this to people? I mean, because it seems like my knee-jerk reaction to this story is you want to hold that close to your vest and you want to reap all the rewards, right? But what's the idea behind teaching it to other people?
That's the way it started. I would sit up. We're having this conversation in Metro Denver, and I used to live in Evergreen, so the foothills. So I used to live up in the mountains, and I used to sit up there and trade, and I honestly made I averaged 30% per month. Right?
That's incredible.
I was killing it.
Nobody else makes that kind of money on stuff, right?
Very few do.
Right.
I've got clients who do, and I'll get to that in a second, but I literally advise people not to take that class. But anyway, and I got suicidal sitting there alone. My personality, I'm a gregarious Italian. Mm-hmm. People and food turn me on. So I like getting out with people, and so I've made my life, educating. And I'm also just a horrible goof off. Last year I took 13 trips. We're talking in January last month, I was diving in Cozumel and Grand Cayman. Before that, I was in Puerto Rico. I'm always on the move, and I'm always goofing off. And by being under contract with my clients, it forces me to be more responsible than I would be for my own behalf.
It keeps it at least a routine, some sort of semblance of a schedule, that sort of thing.
Exactly, because I don't carry any licenses. I don't handle anybody's money. I just teach. Mm-hmm. So what that does is it means I can publish, and I have to publish on a schedule. That's part of the SEC's rule about not having a license. I become an advisor if I write you a personal note or call you, hey, Lance, here's a trade you ought to make, right? That's an advisor's role. When I put it out to the general public, to my readers, it's a private newsletter, then I'm like, writing for the Wall Street Journal.
Right. It's private but general knowledge, right, at that Correct. Point. So it's not directed at exactly one person.
Correct.
So peel back this onion a little bit more. What is it you teach? What is your company called?
So an easy way to cover that is just I have the 2 books, and they cover the main 2 things that I discuss. Obviously, forecasting is critical to this whole process. You have to know when to take action. There'll be people that call me a liar, but the fact is I've made trades 5 minutes from the top or bottom, and that is doable. So I don't want to sit there and at the computer and watch it all day in order to nail it that tight anymore. But I've done that when I had that patience and, I guess that bored that I could sit at home and watch it all day. So, and now I'm blessed that I have, a lot of freedom in my life. The little bit that people pay me to teach, they're like, I get the question all the time. Why do you teach? Do you really need the money? Like, not at all. I get, 10 times in my investments what people pay me to learn, But again, it makes me work. I like people. Gives me a reason to get out. And, I came from a meeting today where I met somebody for coffee ahead of time, and then I went to a networking group after that. And all we do is joke around. My kids tell me, it seems like you get paid to eat. That's about it.
Yeah, you can't complain. I mean, who can complain about that?
So, I didn't answer your whole question. So my first book is on how to forecast. If people search my name, Eric Gemelli, on Amazon.
And spell it out for them, the last name.
Well, Eric with a C, and then Gemelli, G-E, M as in Michael, E-L-L-I. Search that on Amazon. My 2 books will come up by the time you hit G-E-M-E. The one with the coin on it is called The Pattern of Life, and that discusses that universal pattern that predicts when something's coming. So oil and silver prices have bottomed out where the chart said they would. Well, that's weird, right? Gold and silver, it's a chunk of metal buried in the ground, and how in the world is that, the price of that, turning where a chart said? So it's a little hard on radio, but picture stair steps going up, and that last step created in the model of all the steps that came before it, and dial that down one more so you're at the end of the end of the end. Well, if you can, my book will give that to you. When you're at the end of the end of the end of this thing, it's just bizarre, but stuff happens. Oprah bought 10% of Weight Watchers when the chart said something's coming to make Weight Watchers start rallying, right? The U.S. government, the State Department, put tariffs on Chinese steel when the end of the end of the end of the chart said something's coming, this is bottoming out, and it's going to rally.
And is it just, is it general patterns that you see, and it's just you learn to recognize them after years of practice, or at least knowledge from like a sage, like you learned from? Yeah.
So just a good example is I'm a horrible golfer. Do you golf?
No.
So if
even worse than you.
It's hardly possible, but I'll take your word for it. If I'm out with somebody who is good at golfing, they know where my ball is better than I do. And just from the sound of it, they don't even have to be looking. Like, oh yeah, I sliced it over, and it sounded like it rolled. Just based on experience, they've trained their eye, right? I've trained my eye on what this mentor of mine, Doc, has taught me to look for. And he learned it. He's been doing it 60 years. I've been doing it 20. He learned it from somebody else. And I have people, one guy that I taught in Chicago, just trading off his phone, looking for these patterns. He made 25 trades in January. So, not this January, but previously. 25 trades, averaged 10% per trade. He made 250% in 1 month at stoplights, just traffic lights in Chicago. And, I told him, go for the record. The record's 1,000, in my group is 1,000% in 2 years. And he's like, I don't have time. I'm going to, and he listed off all the travel that he's doing. And, but anyway, so that there's a world that people aren't even exposed to that is possible.
Yeah.
So the second part is that I teach is once you feel like something is topping or bottoming, then what do you do about it? One of the most profitable things to do is not to buy options, but to sell them. So everybody thinks you have to buy something to invest. Well, selling changes all the dynamics. Because if I put up $1 and I make 20 cents right away, I didn't just cut my risk by 20%. It's probably less than half because this investment's not going to zero. So by having 20% in hand now, that reduces risk. It also increases velocity, and that's why my book is called Velocity Money Machine. So just round numbers, I invest 10 grand, I get paid $2,000 right now this second. I mean, there's trades I went and looked at today that would do that. So I got 2 grand in my hand. Well, tomorrow I can go reinvest the 2,000. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a whole extra year that I have that. Then I'm not waiting until next year. So that creates velocity. And what's crazy is our average trade is under 6 months. So people are like, first of all, they think we're taking incredible risks. No, I'm hedging my risk. Second, the time frame, it's also velocity because I'm trading the same money 2 and 3 times in a year. So your wife, for example, is a brand new client. Just previously, a couple months ago, we did a trade in, people might recognize who are listening to this live as opposed to, months from now. Fitbit just got bought by Google, or at least, the offer's been made. Well, 4 days before that announcement came, my chart said, something's coming, Fitbit's near its low, so we traded Fit.
And this was before Google made the announcement?
That's correct.
Okay.
4 days ahead of time, my newsletter came out and said, I think Fit is at its, near its low. Let's sell a bet to somebody else. Let's bet on its rising. It's the easiest way to say it. What we actually do is sell a bet to somebody that the underlying asset's going to fall when I think it's going up. Seems very backwards. People are lost for 90 days. But the bottom line is they push the buttons based on hearing from 20 other people, hey, this actually works. And money shows up in their account every single time. So we technically we're selling options and selling puts. But bottom line is that is a bullish strategy. That's when I'm doing that when I think it's rising.
Right.
So over and over and over, 40% of the time, these things go up so fast that we're able to exit early. I might only plan on being in 6 months, and I'm out in 2 or 3, because if I sold a bet to somebody, it's going to fall to $5 and it jumps to 10. Well, that same news told everybody that it's not falling to 5. Right? So anyway, bottom line, in that particular case, we made 75 cents. I gave back a nickel. I got back all my principal. I kept 70 cents, most of the profit, in 6 weeks, right? Most people would love to do that in a year. I think that's about 16% or so. But then I roll that same money into, I think, a trade that you did, and you probably made, Marilyn's here in the studio with us. Did you make 18%?
Yeah, 18% on that trade.
Yeah, so tell us, this is a perfect segue, is I wanted to hear from my wife, and Eric did too, about what it's been like to work with Eric so far.
Yeah, it's been a very good, I'm a new student of his, and what he says about taking complex information, breaking it down into digestible chunks is exactly what he does. Because it's taking these concepts, and then he lends you his confidence. I really needed somebody else's confidence to get into the stock market, because I wouldn't have known what I was doing or selling options.
Right, and you did try this before, right?
Yeah, years ago, and I never made any money. I only lost money. So to be able to borrow all of Eric's knowledge from all of his years of experience, and then to have that as my own to use, just in the form of that he writes the newsletter and tells you what to buy and what to sell, is I think an incredible opportunity, and I'm very grateful for it. I think it's incredibly valuable to me.
Thank you. You said something important there. There's a corollary to it. You didn't know because hardly anybody's ever taught. Right? It's, we don't teach that in school on basics on handling money. So
right.
Most people don't know unless you run in, and a lot of what I teach is available on the internet, but you know how many option strategies there are? There's thousands of hours of things to watch, and you'd have to stumble on one that works. And I just break it down to people. People could read my book and go research it, and they would know how. Right, they would know the steps to take. I think my book does it. Have you read my book?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Oh, fantastic. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I thought it does a decent job of helping people at least learn the basics of our process. But to have somebody narrow down for you. My fee is so simple. It's $5,000, and people trade $25,000. Again, I don't do it. If they have 25 grand in their account and they follow the recommendations I make, I guarantee in writing they'll make 5,000 back. So it's a net cost of 0. But here's the thing. Yeah. At the end of a year, you're going to be better at this than most financial planners. They take tests, right? They know a ton of stuff that I don't know. But they take tests on primarily the law, and some go do the extra work to go be good, and have extra wide knowledge. But usually, a lot of times, they're versed in insurance and maybe mutual funds. So to know how to here's what I love. I hate the lack of hope that people have financially, right? The average, something like 97% has no hope of retiring comfortably. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
If a person would take $25,000, turn it to 50, double it then to 100, they would have 10 trades of $10,000 each. And we're averaging a little bit over 15% in a little bit under six months. So they could be in and out of those 10,000 and have, just a difference of $1,500, right? To me, that's not a fortune. But man, is that meaningful to somebody who's on a fixed income? So when somebody's 70 and the choice is being a greeter at Walmart or standing on your feet all day and being a cash register, at a cash register, or, at 70, I don't think the work alternatives are all that pleasant. So to be able to bring an extra $1,500 in, because you have internet, I can be at the hotel in Italy and trading off the Wi-Fi on my phone and pay for the trip.
Yeah, I know. And can I tell you a little bit about his newsletter?
Sure.
Yeah. It's so simple. He takes a screenshot of the screen that you're going to find when you open your Ameritrade account or whatever account that you like to have. And he circles where to click and what to do. And there's arrows and circles and how to do it. So he has broken it down so simply that sure, you can do it.
Can you back up to the beginning though and talk about what the process is like? So you pay Eric $5,000. You start out with X amount of dollars. How does it all work?
Yeah, and the process for me started over a year ago when I met Eric in this terribly pathetic networking group with only with only 3 members.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
and Eric would show up whenever he wasn't surfing or snowboarding
or diving
or diving. Yeah, so it just tells you that he when he says he likes to go out and be with people and eat food, he really does. This is why he was showing up to the networking group, because it certainly wasn't always to network at that small group.
Right.
And so the process of it. So I met him then. He told me about it. I said I was very interested, but I didn't feel comfortable with moving, taking that money out of my bank account at that time. Just because I thought I was going to need it to live. So we kept in touch, and then here's the process is that. So yes, I wrote Eric a check for $5,000. That was his fee, and we met, and he gave me a notebook with how to just explaining the trades, and then training manual. He opened up his laptop, and he showed me an example of a current trade and how to do it exactly. Mm-hmm. And he said, get an Ameritrade account because that's an easy one to use.
Yeah. So locally, I do train people who are in Colorado, but I've trained people all over the country just through, Zoom or any of the online video.
Oh, sure.
It's really
Zoom
simple.
would be very effective. Mm-hmm. And so my first trade, I bought a stock. I spent about $6,000.
And everybody says that. I'm smiling because everybody says they bought something and we sold. You sold something. Right. Okay.
So he says everyone's lost. I know this is why I need him to help me. So I put up money that I will own that stock if
it's under our target price.
If it's under the target price. Okay.
So a trader would call that a strike price, but if your listeners don't know that language. So we put up cash to buy the stock if necessary. It's like putting up earnest money on a house. Mm-hmm. And so it just shows conviction. Yes, I am able and willing. And something like over 70% or more of the time, I read the chart correctly and it's above our strike. But the cool thing is, so everybody moves backwards, right? And that's part of our deal too. I'm not flawless. So I read charts wrong, but when we get the stock, I might pay $5 for stock that's worth $4. That's why the other person took the risk. But then there's two sides to that trading platform that you looked at. One is a bet that it's going down, and one's a bet that it's going up. I'm a bookie. You want to bet me it's falling? Great, pay me. You want to bet me it's going to rise? Great, pay me. So when I have the shares, it can be profitable to sell somebody a bet it's going to rise. We just, in the last newsletter, I think we received the shares, and one of the stock was up like 30%. So there was nothing to do except just, so we got the shares, we sat on them for a while, and it doesn't even matter how long, it was probably a year. So we sat on them, right? And people are thinking, oh man, I thought I was supposed to make money at this. Well, yeah, now they get all their principal back, plus the money they were paid up front, plus another 30%.
Right. Okay, so to back up, it's a $5,000 fee to take your course, correct? And then you obviously recommend your books as a companion to the course?
Sure. At least the second one, the one with the blue cover.
Yeah. And then minimum for people to start investing?
I would say have 25 grand in your account. 30 is better.
Okay, 30 is better.
Well, it just lets us diversify a little better.
Okay.
So we can trade, I think of columns, right? So if a person has 35 grand, we would trade 7 trades of 4,000, and I'm trying to get the person to where they have 10 trades of 4,000. And then of all the money we make doing that, let's just keep growing those 10 columns of money until there's basically 10 columns of 10 or 100,000.
Do you have a point then when you like to have people start taking profits? I mean, are they taking profits almost immediately, or are you saying you should do something for X amount of time before you start taking?
Well, that would be very individual. So I have to generalize for a large audience, right? So by contract, people can only trade $100,000. So they have to start pulling it out, at that point. And what I want them to do is, there are some vehicles out there that are amazing. You can use cash value. I'm not an agent. I carry no licenses at all. But you can use an insurance policy as a bank, use bank in quotes. That can really accelerate, what you're doing, add safety. I mean, it's almost like a miracle. It's just amazing. I have friends that I introduce. People probably ought to have a little bit of precious metals on hand. I love the idea of having some silver and gold around just in case things tank, and in case you want to know, things will probably tank.
Yeah, let's segue into that. I had a question about tanking, so to speak. So
okay.
I'm of the
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thanks for that. I'm of the Chicagoan and Austrian business cycle theory, right? So when Trump took over, took office, the stock market was at 19,000. It's up to 29,000 now,
correct.
Right? Talk about that acceleration and its normalcy or not normalcy. I mean, is it all, again, did you see this pattern before even he got elected?
Yeah, thank you. It's normal for this phase, right? So there's 5 parts. So I think in terms of waves, right? I count them 1 through 5, and corrections happen in 3s. And that's described in my book, the first book, a little bit better, The Pattern of Life. In the middle, and I think we're at the middle of the end. So in the middle, though, so like what I want to get to is say that the end is scheduled. It's on the calendar.
Okay.
But we probably have a lot of great news coming before then. In the middle, it's very steep. The curve is very steep, and it's a rapid rise. These things can play out a variety of different ways. That's why I like to teach people how to recognize them. I didn't talk at all about my advanced class, and that's literally in writing. It says you probably shouldn't take this class. So I accept 1 or 2 people a year. That's it. And it's not because I don't have the capacity. It's just because I'm not meeting people that they have the capacity. So not being pedantic. It's just I want people to be successful. So everybody can fit into the foundations class if they've got the capital to do it. But so back to your question. We are likely, so based on everything I see, based on today's date and today's chart and everything, we'll probably have a very steep run to 40,000 or higher.
Incredible.
Yeah, it seems crazy, but it's fairly likely.
How much of the policy deregulation is adding to that and optimism, or is it just like you said before? I mean, even before when you talked about Fitbit, you saw the pattern and you knew that something was going to happen even before Google bought it.
Right.
Does that logic apply here or not?
Talking about policy is a fundamentals question. I'm a technical analyst, so
okay.
I rely on the chart. Again, this is the opposite of what everybody's taught. The fundamental shows up when the technical says it will. So I'm going to get people screaming at me, don't write emails. I don't need them. But that's the reality. For 20 years, I've seen. I started trading futures. Right, that's how you make 30%. You don't do it picking, as a stock picker. You need the leverage that futures gives you. Orange juice would pop where it's supposed to because a freeze showed up when the chart said something's coming. It's mind blowing, right? Again, I totally recognize that there's people out there who think I'm crazy or lying or both or something, but I've watched it happen for 20 years. So. And I've got a pretty amazing record. Like I said, almost everything is in writing, and I don't always get it right, but enough that it makes money.
Yeah, well, you've got me curious enough to think about jumping in. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you're obviously successful, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on. Is you've proven it. You've done it. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself 20 years ago? Is there any advice? Say you have a time machine. What would you go to?
It's interesting. I met a young guy. I train in Krav Maga. I'm compelled to learn stuff. So anyway, I thought that'd be fun to learn. Anyway, young guy, and he was just quizzing me, and I was trying to anticipate the future questions, and that's one of them. Especially for younger people, the things you're learning compound. So it's not just money that compounds, it's knowledge that compounds. So start learning things. Hustle your ass off. Can I say that on radio?
Yeah.
Hustle, and the bottom line is things work out. There is opportunity. I think too globally sometimes, so forgive me for stumbling, but I had somebody asking me, how in the world did you get here? I've had just stupid opportunities to write books. Actually came out of the networking groups. I met an editor, and she said, hey, you should write a book. I'm like, I think you're right. I should write a book.
Yeah.
I was offered a chance to go on TV, and, I've dealt with journalists before. It's all skepticism. But I said, tell you what, if you let me bring one of my clients with, then I'll do it. And so every time I got a question, I just turned to my client and said, well, what's your experience? Me, they're going to doubt.
Yeah. My
client, they're going to okay, that's what he did. And this guy was an ex-reverend, so he's a little even harder to doubt, I guess.
Sure.
But what else? I got a chance to speak on the Success at Sea cruise. And so bottom line is I just keep saying yes to opportunity. So, you can't say yes to everything like that Jim Carrey movie. Mm-hmm. I can't even remember the title.
Yes, Man.
Yes, Man. That is it. Good job. You can't say yes to everything, but when probability is on your side, or you can go take a class. I was offered a chance to have radio. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't know anything about being on radio. And actually, again, through our networking groups, you have a chance to speak up for 30 seconds and tell people what you do and hone your message a little bit. And then in those groups, you get a chance to speak for 10 or 12 minutes. And well, that happens to be a quarter hour once you make room for commercials. So, all these things build on each other, and just as you're out busy, momentum. I heard a good metaphor. Don't let the car door keep you from making money. So get out, be busy.
I love that.
Take action. You're going to make some mistakes. Make sure you minimize the pain, and try to maximize when things are good.
Yeah. If people want to get in touch with you and possibly get in line, sounds like there's a line to get in this class, and they like what you've had to say today, how can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
If they go to learn2invest.co for Colorado, learn2invest. I do 15-minute free just discussions with people. One easy way is go buy the book that has the blue cover, and they'll read it in 2 hours, I think. There's a lot of charts and other things, it's not like, and people have told me that it's actually kind of amusing, whether you like, investing stuff or not. It's just I've got an odd sense of humor, and my editors gave me permission to use it, and I always figured, well, we'll edit it out if it's inappropriate. So anyway, I don't want to be inundated with calls. So read the book first, so we've got something to talk about, something specific, not just general things that I've answered 30 times for people. I do workshops, so if what's it called? Learn to Invest Now, I think, is my Facebook page. I'm sorry, I have somebody who does that. Maybe we can include a link.
Sure, in the show notes, absolutely.
So, pretty sure it's Learn #2 Invest Now on Facebook, and my speaking schedule's on there. I try to have at least one event a month. I think there's 2 going to be in February. So, this, as always, seats are limited, but there's opportunity. Start with the book. We'll have a conversation, especially locally. It's a little bit easier. I don't know. What else comes to mind?
I love it. Yeah. No, that was perfect. Yeah. I would encourage everybody to at least take a look. The book is the 2-hour book. Somebody can read in 2 hours. That's free? No?
No, $6.
$6. What is $6? Skip coffee in the morning. Skip the Starbucks line and go buy that book. Read it.
No, listen to coffee in the morning and, read this at night.
Yeah.
15 minutes a day for, 2 weeks, you're done.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, if you like what you've heard today, please check that out. Eric, it was a pleasure having you on.
Oh, I loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on the iTunes app. Tip your barista, and we'll see you next week for more Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm.